welcome to. I'm calling this an evening of metaphysical speculation. That's what I called the last one, anyway. And that seems to work for me at the moment, so I'm going to stick with that. So, welcome to an evening of metaphysical speculation with Dr. Lenny Time. And I'm Dennis. I'm the host of this hour of festivities, and we'll just see where we go. Lenny, how are you doing today? You okay?
Yeah, I'm just arising with the day. It's slightly past 8 o'clock in the morning here, and we're supposed to get in the 80s for weather today.
Yeah, we're up to 25, 26 degrees here, so I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's hot. It's hot enough for everybody to have their tops off and be out in the sun.
Yeah, yeah, it's good to know that it's the May Day. May the 4th be with you, and we're ready for Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, almost Star Wars Day. Almost Star Wars Day, but it's a pagan festival, isn't it? It's Beltane, pagan fire festival. So
Yep.
that's what we're actually celebrating, even though it's disguised as Star Wars Day. It's actually an old pagan festival.
Well, maybe most of the revolutionaries in Star Wars were pagans.
I think they all were, Lenny. I think they all were. Because
Yeah.
we're talking about a celebration of vital force as as a philosophical concept or whatever, as the force, which is obviously the idea of energy flows and all that is
A
it's
lot
a
of
pagan
mind
idea.
control in what went on there. And it wasn't even a deception. The Force was the mind control, at least if used in that capacity. But the Empire had much better mind control than the Force, at least at the start. It's just how it wavered.
Yeah. I mean, they were trying to get George Lucas to turn it all into a religion at one point, weren't they? Which is what they try to do with everything. If there's more than 5 or 6 people buying into it, you turn it into a religion, and then you get tax exempt status, and everybody makes more money.
Which is now what's going on in the world. Everybody at the ground floor level is trying to form a religion or some sort of organization that escapes taxes. And so you've got these not for profit businesses that really are for profit and spend all their money paying the people who run the businesses and do the dirty work exceptionally huge amounts on the government dime. Doesn't work very
Yeah,
well.
yeah, some big money laundering operation if ever I saw one.
Yeah, at least we know in a place like this, there's no money flowing, so there's no money laundering. But we can try it. Anybody who wants to make donations to Dennis, feel free.
Oh yeah, contributions are accepted. Super chats or whatever they're called on Rumble are accepted. Tips or whatever it's called are accepted. I don't know whether I can actually. Well, I've given them my bank details, but my bank account's been closed, so I don't think I'll be able to get access to the money. But I might be able to. You never know. It's worth a try. But yeah, anyway, it's good to know that 50 years on, Star Wars is still alive and well with a day named after it.
I
It
wonder,
is one. Yeah,
I haven't read the Star Wars trilogy, the original books, but I read Isaac Asimov's Foundation trilogy, and
yeah,
I've
I've read
read
Foundation.
Frank Herbert's Dune, and both of those are similar master plots to the Star Wars. And
Yeah,
I really think people were working hard back in the day to get us to believe that a human future was in space. Everything from Star Trek to Spaceballs. But, you know, at
Ooh,
least
I've lost
here
you.
in the U.S.
I think I've lost you for a second there.
Are you there?
Yeah, you're back now. It's all right. You went all robot for a second.
Okay. Everything that we were brought up with on Saturday mornings was Flintstones and Jetsons. And they really tried to make us feel that we were in a Jetsons type of future. You know, the Back to the Future car flying through the air and all that.
Yeah,
But somehow looking at the world today, I think we're very much headed to Flintstones, that we're losing technology, we're losing the handle of the system. And all we want to do is talk to Chat GPT and find out what color clothes we should wear today or something ridiculous.
yeah, yeah. And in the meantime, the Chinese have got flying cars.
Do they?
Yeah,
I
they've
hadn't
got
heard
flying
that.
cars. Yeah, they've got
That's-
well cars. Effectively, they're big drones, but they're big enough to carry people, so they can hover and fly around for a little while, and then they've got to land and recharge. But yeah, so in effect, we've got the Jetsons flying car.
I'll believe it when I see it.
So I think there's footage on YouTube somewhere. I've seen it on YouTube, so it must be true.
You know, today we can make up footage for anything. All you have to do is tell your chat program, hey, make up a video that looks like this, and they can do that. And in fact, it calls into question most of the stuff they presented us in television, because if they had that capability militarily in the 60s and 70s, everything we saw was false. There was no moon landing, there was no Challenger explosion, and the Mets never won the World Series.
Yeah, I've got questions about the moon landing. Challenger, I'm not sure about. I think they probably did have a space program with a space shuttle on it, but I don't know what happened with it. It didn't last all that long. It lasted what 20 years or something, and then they stopped doing it.
Maybe. I mean, it was, they had astronauts out in space stranded for a year that had to be rescued. So something major league wrong is going on with NASA, and NASA's easy acronym, not a space agency.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely something going on, but whether it's hidden technology or whether it's lack of technology or whether it's uh, undisclosed technology or however you want to call it, I don't know. That's probably the same as hidden, but it's not quite the same thing.
Supposedly there is a second civilization made from the money stolen from this civilization. And so who knows? Underground people or another place that's hidden off? Uh, Hard to tell. I think that everything is absolutely true and totally false, and both
Yeah,
at the same time.
I'm waiting for evidence of the underground bases and the monorail systems that are supposedly in existence because I don't know whether they actually exist. I think it's a fairly hefty geoengineering project to get a monorail going without people noticing. I don't know how you
Yeah,
would do that.
I've been invited to one of the underground bases in the case of all things getting loose, but I'm where I want to be. And if something big happens in the world, I'm just staying put out here in the middle of nowhere. I'm not going to go hide in an underground base where I'm cooped up and don't know anyone.
Yeah, or I'm sticking where I am for fairly obvious reasons at the moment, but I don't know. I might end up somewhere with more trees at some point. If I get my kidney replaced, I'll maybe move to somewhere with a few more trees.
I wish I could send you some from here. We've got plenty in the Pacific Northwest.
We've got a few, but I'm in the centre of town, so the trees are all there's a park about half a mile away, uh, but it's still a bit far for me to get to at the moment. But we've got trees growing out of the pavement. out the front of the house, but they don't really count. They're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
going out
It's
of the
not
window.
like a forest within the trees.
No, no.
And here, I'm very lucky because I could walk half a mile and I'm in town, or I can walk half a mile in the other direction and I'm in a forest. And I haven't really done much forest examination walking wise because I've got a friend who's a mushroom hunter and he picks me up and we go out into the real forest and hunt mushrooms. This is morel season here in the Pacific Northwest, so I'm looking for good mushrooms this year,
Excellent.
not the human type.
No, 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 no. As you know, I've been in hospital for a few days, so I'm back on antibiotics for a couple of days. They were trying to work out whether the infection that I had was a urine infection or a blood infection. And if it was a blood infection, they were going to have to. I've got tubes in my neck here. I don't know whether you can't really see them there. There you see the top of them.
Okay.
Uh, but they're going into my vein. That's where they put the machine. That's where they attach the machine when I'm not getting dialysis. But it can potentially get infected, so they weren't sure whether this infection was coming from there or coming from the catheter. But it's turned out it's coming from the catheter. So I had a catheter change a couple of weeks ago, and apparently they should have given me antibiotics then, but they didn't. And I've picked up an infection somewhere down the line in between.
Yeah, you said that they had been changing the catheter too frequently and that you were going to use it for longer. Does that have any bearing on what just happened?
Well, possibly because one of the reasons they wanted me to change the catheter was because the longer you keep it in, the more tendency there is to be infections. But when the nurse asked the doctor, "Do I need to have antibiotics when they change the catheter?" he said no. So it's somebody higher up's made the decision. It wasn't just me making a decision about not changing the catheter. It's the doctor said no, so he didn't think there was a need for. He didn't think there was a risk of infection then either.
We've come to a point where the medical doctors believe their information is superior to us, the general public, and the general public, doesn't get good information on so many issues. I mean, we get what we're schooled in, and then we're expected to believe it. And when it breaks down, I don't know about you, but I make up things. And I say, oh, this must work like this. And I watch, and if my theory is correct, I don't go with the standard what they taught me. So I think the important thing is to keep your water clean and to drink lots of water and get lots of flow so you're flushing through your own system.
I
And
would do, but I'm on a restricted fluid, so I'm only allowed a liter a day.
oh man, and you're given warfarin as a blood thinner.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think that drinking water would thin your blood as opposed to having to take a rat poison?
Ooh, I suppose in theory, but like if my kidneys aren't working well enough to process the water, they would call it. It just means that I've got carrying too much fluid, so
Mm-hmm.
it all stays on in your ankles or wherever, and then they've got to take it off in dialysis. So I'm allowed a liter, which is a couple of cups of tea a day, and enough orange juice to take my pills in the morning. But that's about it, really. That amounts to almost a liter, and then you've got water in your food as well. So
I don't know if I could do it. I guess if you get sick, you don't have a choice. And if your kidneys shut down, you really don't have a choice.
no,
But I'm on
it's not.
like I'm on like 4 cups a morning of this stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I used to do 3 cups of coffee a day at least, but I can't do coffee now. I can only do tea. So because I'm not allowed beans or seeds because there's too much potassium in there.
Well, that's interesting. I suppose bananas are right out then.
Completely out, and mushrooms. I'm not allowed mushrooms either. So there's a lot of stuff you would just normally throw into a stew or whatever. I'm not allowed to eat. I mean, I can get away with a bit of barley here and there, or a bit of this and that, but not in any kind of quantity, because it knocks me. If my potassium level goes up, apparently my heart will start to flutter. My heart rhythm will go out, and then I'm potentially opening a way for a heart attack or for a stroke or whatever.
Are you on restricted salt also?
Nobody said anything about salt.
Hmm.
I don't add salt to anything, but I have a bag of crisps a couple of times a week, but that's about all I have with salt in it.
It seems as though salt is a solution for excess potassium because it's half sodium, and the
Yeah,
sodium potassium exchange with each other in biological systems. But it might be very much worth rethinking biology and coming at it from the standpoint that instead of being synthetic organic creatures, we're more water creatures with a synthetic organic structure. And
right.
I don't know, this instant petrification that I hear talked about on YouTube, where things that are organic change into rock formations, sort of like the Medusa story. She looks at you, you turn into a statue. Um, there might be something to that. And chemistry wise, I'm not sure that the biology chemistry is correct. I'm not sure that chemistry is correct anyway. It's only a model, but it seems to work and we can make predictions from it. So that makes the model worthwhile. I'd love to
Yeah,
look at some of the other models, like the climate change model, and see what they've got programmed into it. But that model is protected by academics with guns. And you can't find out what's actually in a model. A friend of mine once got selected to find out, and he had to sign non disclosure agreements so he wouldn't tell anyone. And it was very frustrating because you had somebody who supposedly knew what was going on, couldn't talk about it, and he got smug and became a non friend pretty quickly.
right. Now it's difficult because if you sign non-disclosure agreements and you literally say anything, they'll come after you with like a legal hammer, basically take everything you've got.
And you don't actually ever get to keep the non disclosure agreement to see what you signed and are privy to. And I don't know if they ever expire. And that might be why we don't have good information in the world, is because half the people know what's going on and can't disclose it, and the other half are
Yeah,
never told what's going on and make things up that sound like they could be real, but maybe aren't.
yeah, it's difficult to know, Lenny. Difficult to know. But there's a lot of non-disclosure agreements around the place. I know that much because if you go into any company that's got any kind of secret stuff going on, they expect you to sign a non-disclosure agreement as soon as you take the job.
Yeah, I had to sign a non disclosure agreement when I worked in the NASA pipeline. And I did water purification, but that's about as much as I talk about it. And that was 35 years ago. But the stuff that I was told was part of the myth of NASA, that when I was growing up, got through school and got out into the job world, I actually believed it all. And as things fell apart numerous times because they weren't how they were said to be, I got off that ride real quick. Hey, I got a question for you. I've been
Okay.
thinking about time lately. Of course, as Dr. Lenny time, I get to be time sometimes. But
Yeah.
is the time we're spending here together the same time or concurrent time? I have a I wonder if time is personal and everybody runs on their own clock, and that we can set it up consciously to be concurrent by having discussions like this. But once we do that, we create a node in time, and by actually filming our conversations into metaphysics, maybe we're creating a series of nodes that are creating a new pathway, a new arch in time. It seems to me that nature loves novelty, and in complex systems, it's always trying to come up with something new and something novel. And I'm at the point where I think I'm a individual novelty to the world. So I lead a charmed existence, and things happen to me and for me that don't happen for other people because I believe in the ontology of the whole works and not what I was taught.
Yeah. Well, certainly there's an element of like creating a coherent conversation that's obviously got its own. It's got its own coherence, and then I've got my coherence, and you've got yours, and between us, like, so that's three different sets of coherent conversations going on. If you look at the conversation itself as an entity, potentially, that's three
And
different coherent.
I guess each person involved in the conversation would add another complexity that changes the energy level of the whole. And two of us merge to combine, and there's some sort of adjustment that we're not any longer on the single individual human thinking plane. But then I get to looking at my cats, who are usually here with me. One's old and one's young, and the older one has become very, very vocal recently. She had a boil grow on top of her head, and I could feel that something was wrong and could see her head growing. I ended up lancing it and taking out a good volume of pus, really, and got it to the point where I've been treating her with apple cider vinegar and just making sure that it has stopped oozing. It finally covered over, so it's not bleeding and oozing anymore. But that was how I spent the first part of my week from Monday through Wednesday, was in kitty dialysis.
Cat hospital.
Yeah, cat hospital. But I think that they think just as well as we think as humans, but that cat skills are limited because of their smaller size and different morphology. But cats think that they run the world, and they do from their perspective. Humans think that we run the world, and we do from our perspective, although I question also whether all the humans here on Earth are actually humans of Earth. Men in Black 1 sort of is a documentary, not a comedy.
Potentially, there might be a lot of different types of human-like entities around the place. I don't know. I've met some people who were very into alien religions and stuff like that. But I mean, he was obviously human, but to be attracted to that sort of stuff, you have to have something in you that's like otherworldly or out of trying to get away from the earth, or either disassociating or something about you that's spacey, for want of a better word.
I don't know. I'm totally convinced that there are other life forms in the universe, that they have ways of getting around that do not involve transportation through space time in a metal tin can, and that we are about to get a big reveal on how all that happens, but it won't necessarily be contiguous with what our current understanding is. And they're trying to badly control things that are getting out of hand.
Right? Yeah, there's certainly an element of disclosure going on. I keep seeing things about disclosure, uh, but it can potentially. I mean, there's there's people who are channeling ETs or telepathically connecting with ETs at the moment. That are on There's one group on YouTube once a month. They do a channeled session, and they're not 100% kosher, I don't think, but they're probably 70% or 80% reasonably accurate, which is not bad for channeled stuff. I used to
Well,
channel ETs, but I never believed what I was saying. It was all like it was a way of communicating with something, but I don't know what the something was. It was claiming to be ET, but who knows?
I have had conversations through a channel with an Andromedan and
Yeah,
also with past people from human history. And I'm convinced from the tenor of the conversations that got pretty deep that it wasn't the channel making things up. And in fact, the channel, when she came through with her channeling, never remembered what was said during the conversations and had to be
right.
updated on what was in the conversation in order to know. So there's something real there, but I don't know. Sometimes I spell real REEL and think that maybe it's all the Truman Show.
But potentially it all is. So potentially it's all us making it up as we go along, Lenny. But who knows? But in any case, there's at least some people making up alien contact. So there's at least one stream that's going to find alien contact somewhere down the line.
I guess you get what you believe, and that we have really changed the existence of belief within our system. When I was growing up, I was indoctrinated by a religion and had 2 or 3 sessions a week from when I was 5 up to when I was 16, and it didn't hold. I did not accept the religion at face value because of some of the things I learned that didn't make sense to me as I was gaining knowledge. And I don't know, when I was 16 or 17, I thought I knew more than anyone else in the world. And then I went off to college and grad school and other human education centers and lost a lot of the ability to creatively think outside the box.
Yeah,
We need thinkers outside the box to be able to look back at where we are with a different perspective. But I think if you liken it to a big pyramid scheme with only a few people at the top, all we have to do is invert the surroundings, and the pyramid is upside down with its point underground holding it up. And the top of the pyramid is the broad consensus of human existence. Consensus.
Yeah,
Can we get consensus with more than two people as humans?
unlikely. I've tried it and it just doesn't usually work for very long. You can for a little while, but not for very long.
Two people can keep it together pretty well and be on a path where they explain things. But when a third person comes in, trying to catch that third person up invariably breaks down a lot of the building of thought that has come in. But it's worth our while to do some thought experiments here, like J. Edgar Hoover, the musical, which ta-da, is very much a part of what we are doing.
Yeah,
Um, J. Edgar Hoover, for those of you who have never heard of him, was the FBI boss back in the 70s and 80s. And he ran things with an iron fist and was real button up, coat and tie type of guy. But at night he'd go out and drag and hit the bars. At least that's
yeah.
the rumor.
Oh, I think there's evidence, Lenny. I think there's evidence that he was being blackmailed by the mob as well. So that's why he was kind of in collaboration with the gangsters he was meant to be chasing, because they were the people that were running the clubs he was going to.
And in the whole political system, because you don't rise in the political system without being a gangster of some sort.
Yeah, that's very true as well. That's very true. Um, can I wrap this up for a few minutes, Lenny? Because I'm thinking I've got somebody coming shortly. He's due about now, so I don't want to interrupt in the middle of the conversation. So we wrap it up for about
Certainly.
half an hour, 45 minutes, and I might
Okay,
have to resend you another link. Yeah.
not a problem. I will keep my Skype open, or you can text me or Telegram or
All right. Okay.
any other way that we can get together because there's so many different ways of establishing links these days.
Yeah. Well, I'm favoring Discord at the moment, so I'll post on Metaphysics of Money in Discord
Okay,
and the new way. All right. I'll catch you in a bit.
sounds good. Take care.